what I want to do is I want to finish up chapter 3, and the reason I want to do that is because 3.7, solving equations, is going to reinforce, it's going to help you to do that factoring. Because all we're going to do is we're going to add one more step. Now, please listen to this. Make a note of it, highlight it, put it into your brain, and make sure you understand this. If you're looking in your book on page 161, if you're looking at your study guide, that chapter 3 test study guide, for numbers 9 through 14, notice the directions say factor. And if the directions say factor, you want parentheses in your answer. Now, what I'm fixing to do is I'm fixing to throw a kink into your world. Because now we're going to solve. And if the directions say solve, look at numbers 15 through 22. The directions say solve each equation. If it says solve, I don't want parentheses. I want a number. Now, because I've been doing this for almost 20 years, I know about 25% of you are going to get that totally confused on the test. And it's going to be the 25% that does not practice. If the directions say factor, you want your answer to look, you want it to have parentheses in it. That's factor. But if the directions say solve, you're going to see an equal sign. And you're going to keep going, and you're going to use the zero product property, which we're going to talk about. This is the answer to solving. This is the answer to factoring. Make sure you read the directions carefully. Okay? So, 3.7 does talk about equations, and like I said, we're just going to add one more step to it. So, to solve an equation, step number 1 is so important. It's so important. What you're going to see is you're going to see equal signs. Okay? That's the difference between a factoring problem and an equation, a solving problem. You're going to see equal signs. The first thing you want to do is you want to get everything set equal to 0. You want to get everything set equal to 0. You may have to do some algebra before you can get it set equal to 0, but you want to get everything set equal to 0. Once you do that, on the left-hand side, you're going to have a polynomial, and you're going to factor it using the factoring techniques that you should have learned using the integrity videos. So you're going to factor your left-hand side. And then what you're going to do is that new step, you're going to use the zero product property, which states no matter how many factors you have, if you multiply them together and you get 0, then one or all of those factors have to be 0. So what you're going to do is you're going to take all your factors, set them equal to 0, and continue to solve. All right? So watch this. Here are 4 equations that I'm asking you to solve. All 4 of these are set equal to 0 already. So you don't even have to do step number 1. Okay? They're already set equal to 0, but that's something you've got to be sure of because, look, these are not set equal to 0. So you are going to have to do step number 1 on these. Okay, you are going to have to do some algebra and then move some things around. But here, look at what we have. And I intentionally did trinomials because throughout the room, and I know this from experience, trinomials are the hardest ones to do. So here we go. For the very first problem, the problem on the top left, you have a trinomial. And you should do this in your head every single time. You have a trinomial, there's nothing in common, and my leading coefficient is 1. From there, you should have the process memorized. So you're going to open up 2 sets of parentheses, make sure you have it still equal to 0. Decide on your signs. Since this is negative, I'm going to have a plus in one and a minus in the other, and it does not matter which is which. And then you're going to simplify that x squared into x times x, because you're just undoing the full method. And then you're going to think, what can I multiply together to get negative 12, but add together to get negative 11, and I'm thinking negative 12 times 1 and negative 12 plus 1. So the negative 12 is going to have to go with the minus sign, and the 1 is going to have to go with the plus sign. And now you just use your zero product property. You're going to say x plus 1 equals 0, and you're going to say x minus 12 equals 0. So here we minus 1, so we'll get x is equal to negative 1, and here we'll add 12, and you get x is equal to 12. And this is your answer. So if the directions say solve, you're going to come up with actual numbers for your answer. If the directions say factor, you would stop right there. If the directions say factor, you would stop here. But if the directions say solve, you got to keep on going. Okay, the one on the right. Let's go through the process. You have a trinomial. On the left-hand side, it's already set equal to 0, so you're good. You have a trinomial. Is there anything in common with these three terms? There's nothing in common. So I have a trinomial. My leading coefficient is not 1. So here, you're going to have to either do bottoms up, box method, guess check, whichever method you chose to go with. How many of you are doing guess check? How many of you are doing bottoms up? How many of you are doing box method? All right, majority rules as always. So bottoms up is what we're going to do. Remember, please write that on your paper. My father drinks Red Bull, MFDRB. And make sure you go through all 5 steps. Because what typically happens is you stop at factoring. You factor it and then you stop. I had 2 straight A students that are sitting in this room in 098 that did that. And you know who you are. Yes, ma'am, you did. You stopped right here. I know. Okay. So let's take the 20 and multiply in. So we're going to have x squared plus 7x minus, what's that going to be? Equals 0. And then we're going to factor this new trinomial. Let's think, what can you multiply together to get negative 60, but add together to get 7? I'm thinking 12 and negative 5. So you'll have 12 and negative 5. And then you're going to divide out. Please don't stop there. Divide out what you multiplied in. Reduce. So we're going to have x plus. Here we can divide both of these by 4, so we'll have 3/5. Here we can divide both of these by 5, so we'll have 1/4. And then bring up, so we'll have 5x plus 3 times 4x minus 1 is equal to 0. That's factored. So if the directions say factored, you would stop here. But our directions are going to say solve because we have an equal sign. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 5x plus 3 equals 0 and 4x minus 1 equals 0. So take each factor and set them equal to 0. And then solve. Here, if I solve for x, what am I going to get? Negative 3/5. So x equals negative 3/5. And here, if I solve for 0, what am I going to get? So you have x equals 1/4. Now, in this class, I have full confidence that we are past solving equations. Yes, everybody should know how to solve those equations. So you're going to get these 2 answers here. 1, 2. Okay, bottom left. Go through the process. One thing that should stick out in your brain right now is what? That negative leading coefficient. How do we fix that? We don't want a negative leading coefficient. What are we going to do? We know that we're going to factor out at least a negative. What else can we factor out? A 2. Okay, so if I divide each one of these by negative 2, I'm going to have an n squared plus 5n plus 6. I'm thinking a negative divided by a negative. Oh, yes. This is a negative 6. Thank you. That's the whole point. Changing those signs. Oh, I didn't write the negative there. That's what happened. Okay, so now look at the trinomial on the inside. That's what we're going to factor from here. The trinomial on the inside, you're only looking at this. Forget about that negative 2 for now, okay? You're only looking at what's inside those parentheses. It is a trinomial. My leading coefficient's 1. You can do bottoms up, but it's totally not necessary because we're going to have an n plus and an n minus. Signs are going to be different, and I know that because of that last sign. So what can I multiply together to get negative 6, but add together to get 5? I'm thinking 6 and negative 1. It can't be 2 and 3 because you're going to end up subtracting them and you're going to get 1 or negative 1. So it can't be 2 and 3. So the 6 is going to go here and the 1's going to go here. Now, at this point, this is what I need you to understand. How many factors do you have? How many things are you multiplying together? 3. You have the negative 2, you have the n plus 6, and you have the n minus 3. So you're going to take each one of those and set them equal to 0. So negative 2 equals 0. True or false? False. So we can get rid of that. That's not even going to be an option. So then we're going to have n is equal to negative 6 and n is equal to 1. Okay, the one on the bottom right, it is a pattern. How do I know it's a pattern? What's the square root of 16x squared? 4x. What's the square root of 49? 7. Watch this. Now, when we were going through those patterns, when we were multiplying, remember, if the signs are different, that middle one's going to cancel out. But if the signs are the same, it's going to double. This is your square double square. Watch this. Signs are going to be the same, and I know that because of that right there. Signs are going to be the same. Square root of 16x squared is going to be 4x. Square root of 49 is going to be 7. And of course, equals to 0. So where did the 56 go? Yeah, we're undoing that full method. We're undoing that full method. So if you fold those back out, remember square, double square. What's 4x times 7? Double it. You get your 56. There it is. Okay? Now take each one of these and set them equal to 0. Now here you're going to get the exact same answer for both of them. It's going to be 7/4. Okay, so what happens if you're asked to solve and it's not set equal to 0? You've got to get it set equal to 0. And if you don't listen to this and you don't make a note of it and you don't write it down, you're going to forget to do this Wednesday. If it's asking you to solve and it's not set equal to 0, you cannot solve. You can't. Now, we're going to go back to chapter 1 and kind of sort of do order of operations. The first thing in order of operations we want to do is get rid of what? And let's do that. Get rid of your parentheses, so we're going to distribute here. So we'll have 9a squared plus 9. Still not set equal to 0, so what are we going to do? We're going to minus 4 from both sides. So we'll have 9a squared plus 5. Thank you. That was throwing me off. Thank you. Okay, minus 4. So we'll have 9a squared plus 9a minus 4. Good, 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 good. So now we have it set equal to 0. On the left-hand side, is there anything we can factor out? Anything in common between all three of them? No, there's nothing in common. So now you have a trinomial. Your leading coefficient is not 1. So what are you going to do? Bottoms up. You got to do bottoms up here. So we're going to have a squared plus 9a minus 36. And then you're going to factor this. So you're going to have a squared, a. Signs are going to be different. What can you multiply together to get negative 36, but add together to get 9? Good. Divide out, what number are we going to divide out here? A 9, good. So we're going to reduce. Reduce 12/9 by 3, so we'll get 4/3. 3/9 will divide or reduce to 1/3. And remember, it's still set equal to 0. Bottoms up, so we're going to bring up. And then solve. So if we take each one of these and set them equal to 0, we're going to get a is equal to what? So finish solving this. What'd you get? Negative 4/3 and positive 1/3. Very good. Okay, so the one on the right, what are you going to do? You're going to do the full method. Good. So, or distributive property, whatever. X times x is going to be x squared. X times 9 is going to be 9x. Negative 1 times x is going to be negative x. Negative 1 times 9 is going to be negative 9. Now, at this point, if you want to combine the 9x and the negative 1x, you can. Or if you want to bring the 11 over first, doesn't matter which one you do first. I'm just going to go ahead and simplify the left-hand side. Now, the common mistake here is people turn around and they factor that back out. Well, if you factor that back out, you're going to get what you started with. That's not helping. So, what we need to do is we need to minus 11. Remember, get it set equal to 0. So we're going to have x squared plus 8x minus 20. And then you're going to factor this. Now that I've got it set equal to 0, I can go ahead and factor. So what can we multiply together to get negative 20, but add together to get 8? Positive 10 and negative 2. Take each one of these, set them equal to 0. And you're going to get x is equal to negative 10 and x is equal to 2. So, before you can even solve an equation, you got to know how to factor. If you don't know how to factor, you need to go back and watch those Tegrity videos. You've got to watch those Tegrity videos to know how to factor. Here is your study guide. This is due Wednesday if you want those 10 bonus points. Listen to me, okay? Listen. You have a test Wednesday. That test will cover all of Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is hard. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm just not going to learn how to factor, I'll fail this test, this will be my drop grade, that's fine. Chapter 4, you can't do Chapter 4 unless you know how to factor. So not only will you have to drop Chapter 3, but you're going to want to drop Chapter 4, and you're not going to be able to drop Chapter 4. So buy the bullet and learn how to factor. Because if you don't know how to factor, you can't do this. Now, having said that, sometime between now and Wednesday, if you cannot do that study guide and pretend that it's a test and do it without looking at the answers, you need to seek help. I'm in my office. You're more than welcome to come see me, make an appointment to make sure I'm there and not in a meeting or something. Corey Myers, down the very last room on the right, room 25, he's there every day from 8:30 to 1. He's absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well, today's Monday, so that doesn't count. So make sure if you need to go see him, go see him. There's a free tutoring lab over in Bailey. Go there. Or if you need to, or if you want to, look at my integrity videos again. Just please, please study before you come in here Wednesday. Otherwise, you will be in misery. See you then.